now by a member of the U.S. Senate who actually used to work as an aerial firefighter. The just sworn in freshman senator from Montana, Senator Tim Sheehy, is the former CEO of an aerial firefighting company. And it's great to have you here. I think you're the only former aerial firefighter in the Senate.
I would assume so.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I checked. I didn't see any others. First off, just on what it is like to be in those planes, in those helicopters that are doing this. Can you just walk us through that as we're watching and seeing just how pivotal they've been playing a role in this tonight?
Well, it's important for people to know it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Just this last summer, we lost 4 firefighting pilots around the U.S. and around the world. Every year, you'll read stories about it. You're flying these planes through smoke and ash, through incredible turbulence, high winds, and of course, you're close to the ground. High terrain, you've got mountains on either side, and you've got a lot of other aircraft in the area. And as you just mentioned, I can show you a picture in a minute here about the aircraft that was actually impacted by the drone, tore a hole in the wing. When you're flying through at that speed, a small plastic drone can do great damage. So it's a dangerous mission. All the more reason we have to be vigilant on the ground for these wildfires, because the ground firefighters are in a tremendous amount of danger, and the aerial firefighters are as well. It's a dangerous job, but it's an incredibly important one that we have to do to protect our communities.
So what happens, I mean, given you've been there, what happens when we're in the situation we've been in the last 48 hours where they can't get in the sky? I mean, you're just seeing these on-the-ground firefighters who are in trucks trying to get up roads that are blocked by cars where people were trying to just flee and escape. I mean, what are the options there? Because they're dealing with these hydrants, they're going into these neighborhoods and dealing with what you're using to fight a house fire typically, and instead they're fighting 5 fires at once.
No, that's exactly right. And there's a huge dichotomy in America between structural firefighting, the red fire truck, traditional firemen everyone's familiar with, and wildland firefighting. And unfortunately, because they're treated so differently from a funding perspective and from a code perspective, we're not nearly as ready to fight wildfires in this country as we should be. And we've seen that in the last year and a half. Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. Who thinks of Hawaii when they think of wildfires? Whole town wiped off the map. Right now we're seeing LA being burned to the ground. And the entire wildfire community has been speaking for years, shouting from the rooftops that this big one was going to be coming and we're not ready, and now we're seeing the impacts of that.
But how do you get ready in this instance? I mean, if there are more aerial firefighters, but they can't go out, so they obviously have to be careful with the winds. And so what is the alternative to something like that? Or is it you just wait for the winds to die down?
No, well, number one is code. So we need to be ready for these fires beforehand. So aggressive vegetation management. We have to make sure we actually have water sources available. You've been seeing a lot of criticism of the California government and other entities in the government, not unfairly, about the restriction of water use. So there will be reservoirs of water that during a wildfire, you literally will have to fly over and go to water further away to scoop or to pick up with a helicopter bucket, because there's a Eurasian snailfish or smelt or some water mussel in that lake they don't want you to touch because it's an invasive species. Okay, that's important, but guess what? When people's homes are being burned to the ground and people are evacuating, we should be getting these red tape endangered species acts, protection acts out of the way so we can actively fight the fires and protect these communities.
Yeah, well, and so I had heard that, and we'd been talking to some officials. They were saying, well, these reservoirs, they were all full. They were either at or above historic levels. So when you're dealing with that and you're confronting that kind of a situation here, and you've been talking about what you're getting at there is just a total overhaul of the federal wildfire system. What are the other things that Congress should be looking at, or that officials should be looking at here?
Speed, initial attack. So in America, if you dial 911 in this building or at your home, there'll be a fire engine at this address in 5 minutes. That's national code, NFPA 409-1710. It is required nationally. There is no national code to respond to a wildland fire. It can take hours, it can take days before an aircraft or a fire truck can respond to a wildland fire. We have to reform that. That's number one. Number two, appropriate resource coverage. Basically, our wildland firefighting apparatus shuts down outside the summer. We treat these firefighters who are brave first responders, we treat them like seasonal ski resort employees. They get underpaid, they don't get benefits, they don't get medical care if they get injured on the job. I mean, if a veteran like me, I'm a combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, you get wounded, come home, you get a fantastic array of care. It's not always the best coordinated through the VA, but we do our best for our troops. Wildland firefighters don't get any of that. So we need to treat our wildland firefighters like the professionals they are, and we have to have them ready year-round. As we see, it's January. This isn't July or August. It's January. We have to be able to respond to fires all over the country year-round.
And, that kind of puts you in agreement with someone. I'm assuming maybe you're not always in agreement with Governor Gavin Newsom of California. He was talking to Anderson last night, and he said, it is January. And he was saying, how they're contracted out, typically what the season is. But he was saying, I was just there last week, they haven't had any rain. He said fire season is year round now. There is no specific season like it was before, how you treated it before. That needs to be different, you think?
We had wildfires, as you and I were speaking about beforehand, in New Jersey in November, in Texas in March. Now we're seeing them in LA in January. So it's a year-round threat. It's a 50-state threat from Hawaii to New Jersey to Texas to California and everywhere in between. And we have to be ready year-round. And the beauty of what you just said is this can be a bipartisan solution. In a hyper-polarized country, we're seeing an issue that Andy Kim and I, Adam Schiff and I probably don't agree on a whole lot. I'm a conservative Republican from a red state. Adam Schiff and Andy Kim and I and many others, Jackie Rosen from Nevada, are saying we need to fix this problem.
Yeah.
These fires don't understand socioeconomic status or party. They're going to burn our houses the same way. Let's get ready.
Yeah, and given that, I mean, you're new to Congress. You've been there a couple days.
3 days.
They're not always.
That's more than a couple.
3 days. They're not always good at getting things done. And there have been efforts to try to do something like this where it just never gets out of committee. How do you make that different this time? For people who are watching, who are saying, you know, they are tired of things like this that happen in Washington, and there isn't breakthrough there.
Well, I think regardless of party, I do think what we've heard from the American people this election cycle is they are tired of process excuses. They really are. I mean, I think we're, 4% approval rating with the American people, Congress is. People don't really respect us or like us. They want results, and they don't want process excuses. So I do think we have a bit of a mandate from the American people to say, let's start fixing these problems. So we do have bipartisan support. We're going to put a bill on the table Tuesday, I think, that I'm leading right now already, given my background. That's got a tremendous amount of support in the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle, and President Trump has been very vocally supportive of this as well. We're going to try to start making these changes immediately and punch through the bureaucracy, because we have brave firefighters out there on the ground, and they need the right amount of support, and they're not getting it.
Anything you want to say to those aerial firefighters tonight? I mean, you know what they are going through right now.
I know some of them personally. I'm texting them, in touch with them right now. And, you know, listen, stay safe out there. You're in our thoughts and prayers to the ground firefighters. Thank you to what you're doing. And, of course, to the citizens affected, you know, just stay safe, get out of there, listen to the evacuation instructions. And we're going to fix this problem so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Senator Sheehy, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to Congress. We'll obviously stay tuned. We're going to get a live update from Malibu next. Seafront